thanks very much for making it to session 3 of the Next Generation series. This time we're talking about how extended reality has evolved over the last few years and how it's going to change and hopefully revolutionize the way, not just the way businesses use it, but the way we as individuals use it and the whole world uses it at large. So we have with us today 2 experts on extended reality. I'm going to go from left to right, although I should start with the CEO, or maybe I'll start with the CEO. I'm going to start with Candy. So Candy is the CEO of Dimersions. Dimersions is an immersive tech startup creating extended reality experiences and products. She's known for being able to sell sand in the desert. It's a very handy skill because I worked in the desert for like 16, 17 years. She's been actively producing, pitching, and selling creative marketing, advertising, and software solutions for the past 13 plus years. And she's worked with the likes of the Chrysler Group, Vodafone, and Benfica, and believes that marketing is the art of selling ideas and emotions to people and not products and services to algorithms. I really love that. Because a lot of people think, oh yeah, marketing or just generally sales and marketing is all about selling, and it is. But it's not about selling at large. It's about selling to people, and there's a psychology behind it. So I love that. And next we're going to talk about a little bit about João. João Moreira is a self-taught stack developer and award-winning designer with a degree in biology and sound engineering. We're going to come to that later. He's a co-founder of Dimersions and the CTO. He's worked with brands like Bang & Olufsen, Sony Music, Brothers, Red Bull, and believes that the future cannot be built without a diverse set of minds working on it. And he believes that VR or AR or extended reality is definitely going to be the future. So guys, welcome to both of you. Welcome to the Next Generation series. It's good to have you guys here. I want to start because a lot of people, especially now, now that I'm rereading the bios and stuff, like João was like, biology, man. So I'm like, what's the connection? I'm trying to establish the connection. Why, from biology to virtual reality? I know there was, some digital marketing and developing, and you said you're a full stack developer and stuff somewhere in between, and then from there it jumped to virtual reality. So give me a little bit of very quickly. Let's give us some backstory on how that happened. If you can go first.
Yeah. So in my case, basically, I was studying biology, more specifically animal biology. But I always had a connection to technology, and I've been developing stuff since I was 14 years old. So the connection was already there. But then I think I didn't connect as well to the biology thing as I was supposed to. And I entered the phase where I really wanted to focus on something more creative. And for me at the time, music was it. So I jumped from biology to sound engineering. But in order to afford to study sound engineering, I had to start working. And I started working on something that I was familiar with, which was development and design. And at the time, I met Candy, and we started working together, basically.
Interesting story. Right, Candy, your turn.
So my story is a little bit different. So I was never connected to technology, and here I am today, CEO of a tech company. But I studied biology too, but human biology. But I was passionate about cells, and I was a very curious child. The first cell I made was to my mother, to be my mother. I'm kidding. But I always wanted to sell things and talk to people and be able to share to the world better things, not just to buy them, but to experience them. Everything I sold was not a product, was an experience, even though it was the product behind the experience. And that was something I brought to the company, and it's something I do today with the XR. So I'm not selling products, I'm selling emotions, and I'm selling experience, because people want to experience things. You don't buy a cell phone just because it's a cell phone. You buy it to experience something. Other is to have a nice iPhone and take photographs like crazy, or you have an Android because you like the earbuds, or I don't know. It's different for everyone, but you don't buy the things because they are things. Buy them because they give you some experience and you like to use them for somehow. So I met João, and he was the tech guy. So he was the one who knew how to do things, and I was the one who could vision the thing. So I said to him, let's make a team, and I think about the things we want to sell with you, and you make them reality. And even now, when I go to a client, on the spot, I think about an idea. I don't know if it's possible to make it, but I sell it anyway. And then I come to the and say to João, now let's make the team work, and let's see if this thing is possible to happen. And it's always is, because if you are creative enough, you can take things that seems impossible to do it. And we are a great team because of that. So, and I believe that if we have a past that has a lot of interest, you don't have to be a tech guy to be in technology. My example, I love
Absolutely, yep.
like music or biology or photographs or cinema. I'm passionate about all these things, and I see them as a positive thing to bring to the business and create experience that are complete, full, not only with the tech aspect in your mind. You know what I mean? If you have a different past, you can bring experience to it and make a greater product or make a greater experience.
Absolutely, I like that. In fact, I think a lot of the modern day tech companies, even some people that I know, would subscribe to that same notion. Like try and figure out what it wants, and then just well, we can develop that, and then go back and then develop it. So you sell the basic, you sell the product before you make it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, always.
It's cool.
Because you imagine what's not done yet. That's what we do on our daily basis. We create things that are not done yet because we want to be different. We want to bring something different.
Well, that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, right? Because you're like, there's a difference. There's somebody who we used to have these discussions lots of times with friends back in the Middle East and stuff. It's like, what is the difference between a businessman and an entrepreneur? And a business person will just think about business, buying, selling, something that is already there. Just take the idea and just sort of fine tuning and fine tune it and run with it. Whereas an entrepreneur, to entrepreneur, you have to have an entrepreneur mindset, or you have to have a bit of an like you have to be creative, and you have to think outside. Literally, I know this word is thrown around a lot. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. But a lot of people say it. Very few people do it. And to be able to be a success entrepreneur, you need to be able to think outside the box and think about ideas that people are not already thinking of. And that's the beauty of, I guess that's the beauty of what we do. So, yay, man.
Yeah.
All right, so now let's get to the good stuff. Not that wasn't good stuff, but let's get to the even better stuff. So this is my personal observation, and you can, and this is me speaking as somebody who has an avid interest in virtual reality and augmented reality, but not somebody who just recently got involved in it as a couple of years. You know better, but. So back in the Middle East, when I was there in 2017, we noticed that I was working as head of marketing for a company that that was retailing HTC Vive at the time, and that kind of sparked my interest in this whole virtual reality arena. And that was like, I wanted to learn more. That got me insightful and curious and excited. And then we ran a couple of really good campaigns, and then we were targeting the retail market, and things happened, but they didn't really go as well as we wanted them to go. And then when I did a lot of research on a global scale, I figured that although VR at the time, VR and AR, forget about mixed reality for a minute there, we'll just focus on VR and AR. It had come a long way up until 2017, but it somehow got stuck there because I think it was still not mainstream. It was still within the gamers, and it was trying to get out and become mainstream, and then it kind of stalled. Do you think that was basically wrong timing, or it was too early or too ahead of its time back then, about 5 years ago? And do you think it's got a lot of potential now, or do you think it's going to take maybe a couple of more years for this whole thing to mature? Candy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think like a few years ago, maybe the people were not prepared to deal with this type of technology because not because it was not their time, but because the technology was introduced in the wrong way to the people. So you had like AR filters on Snapchat.
Right.
Yeah. And that was the first encounter with AR that people took, even without they knowing it was AR. And still,
Actually, correction. Before that, it was Iron Man that introduced AR.
yeah. But I think the problem is it was a B2C thing before it was a B2B, and it's supposed to be a B2B thing first.
Right.
So the brands introduce the technology to people, and people know how to use it, not the other way around. I think that was the main problem with the introduction of this type of technology way too sooner. But now I think it's the right time to invest in this type of technology because it's taking very, very, I don't know how to say it, but it's taking very,
It's
fast. It's going fast. It's going fast now. It's growing fast because you have the cell phones are very good. The laptops are very good. The VR
Headsets.
headsets.
The hardware itself is improving a lot.
Yeah, so you have brands investing in this type of technology like Xbox and things like that, and people are now seeing an utility to this type of technology. So now it's the time, and now I think it's the time to invest in this. I believe it.
The only thing, Kenny already said it all. But the only thing I would add is, like, as she said, the biggest problem with this was the introduction of things directly to consumer too soon. So we all started seeing movies at the cinema, so we had the big experience, and then the cinema came to our homes through the television or through the
Right.
cassettes, and then DVDs, and then Blu-rays. And VR tried to do the opposite. Okay, so it tried to push hardware to consumers too fast, and that's not a problem per se, but to be able to sell something at a price that the average consumer can buy at the time, the quality of the hardware was not good. So the screens were, in terms of VR, for example, the screens weren't good enough. The
processing was poor.
Too slow. The field of view was bad. It was clunky. It was ugly. So a lot of people jumped into it with the expectation of being something amazing, but actually it wasn't. So we're talking about the first Oculus, the development kit, the second one, in the first Oculus, not development kit, the first one, it wasn't good enough. And even the HTC Vive, it was really good, but if we compare it to today,
to what's available today,
it was not as good as it was supposed to be in terms of a consumer product. And if they had took the opposite turn and made brands build VR arcades and VR cinemas with very expensive headsets that the people would pay to just try it out. That way, the reference most people had with VR would be so good that when a consumer product would arrive, they would go like, I want that, I need that in my life. And that was not what happened. At that time, 2017, 2016,
15,
even 15, most of the people's experiences with VR were basically Google Cardboard and Samsung Gear.
Yeah, which is really poor, actually, if you compare to what's available now.
That first experience. And as we usually say, you don't have a second chance to have a great first experience. And that branded VR as something like, it's good,
like a toy.
Yeah,
it's a toy. Yeah.
And I think the same kind of started happening with AR when it started in 2015 was when Snapchat released the AR filters for the first time. And at the time, 2015, I don't think a lot of Android phones were even able to process those filters at a good FPS. So the experience was clunky, a little bit clunky. But because the final product was always like a photo at the time, so you were taking a photo with a filter, it wasn't that bad.
It didn't need much.
Yeah, it didn't need as much processing. But as we started evolving it, nowadays you have amazing filters with 3D, with morphing of the image and placing eyes on the mouth, mouth on the eyes. And that's a lot of processing, and that's amazing AR. But the function of it is just gimmick. It's just to play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's true. I totally agree.
That's the problem with AR, at least for me, which is that it arrived to consumers as something to play with, not really something useful.
I totally agree. Yeah. So. All right, so we've covered that. So it's mainly a mix of the technology wasn't good enough at the time, and also the way it was marketed. It was marketed the right way, and I more or less agree with you on that. Getting back to so, what according to you are the biggest misconceptions about extended reality that you want to tell people that are attending this today? João, you want to go first?
Okay, so I think the first one, in terms of consumer, is that VR is just for games, and AR it's just for playful things that you do once and just shut it. And both things are completely false. So VR is very useful for experiences, for experiencing things for the first time. There are a lot of use cases for that, but for example, in terms of training people in very extreme situations, or just out of normal situations, say training something from Walmart on what it is to be at the counter during a Black Friday, okay, and all the mayhem that ensues. Or training someone that needs to operate a very difficult or very dangerous machinery, okay, and having it train with it with the same controls, but in an environment that it's completely safe, that they are absolutely sure they will not lose an arm learning how to use that VR. And in terms of AR can be so useful, but most people don't know it yet, because they see AR as either Fields or Pokemon Go. That's the two references they have. But actually, today we can do very accurate measures, for example, with AR. So you can check if that bag you have is actually allowed onto an EasyJet flight, for example. You can use it to count. I don't know, for example, a lot of metal cubes that you have stacked. You can use it through AI to count how many pipes are in there, for example. Or you can just use it to put a washing machine on your kitchen and check if it fits the space that you're imagining it, or say a fridge. Does this fridge I want to buy actually fit my kitchen, and will I be able to walk beside it without going like this? Okay.
Interesting.
Those use cases can be used right now, and they are extremely useful. So the biggest misconception for me in terms of AR is that AR is not useful. It is very, very useful. But I think it's also the developers are also to blame, because they don't strive to make their apps useful. They are completely glad to just make them very
Gimmicky
and gimmicky.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think the long-term sustainability of any technology should be in how you get long-term effectiveness, or how you can use it on a day-to-day basis. Because gimmicks like Pokemon, it was a big thing a couple of years ago, and then that's it, and the same with filters and stuff. But something that is useful, like this washing machine example, is really cool, because I mean, I see a lot of people, that I know personally, that are moving, especially if you live in a place like the UK, in London, where things are pretty squeezed, and you need to know if your cooker or your washing machine is going to fit in that place. I mean, it's a beautiful way of getting it done. And from what I've seen, and I'm sure you're going to enlighten us eventually, but I've seen where you can actually drag and drop, and you can pick stuff from a store that has this feature enabled, that you could drop it into a semi-fictionalized version of your kitchen, for instance, with the dimensions ready, and then it'll tell you whether it's possible or not. And it also helps you sort of visualize what your kitchen is going to look like, or not just your kitchen, but you can actually take like a desk of drawers, or a cupboard, or a closet, and put it in your living room, just to see what it looks like before you buy it. So I mean, so basically, it has applications everywhere, and this is what developers, I think, need to focus on. Show people day-to-day applications, because that's what that's more of a mainstream appeal, as opposed to just Pokemon characters, or whatever. Candy, your go.
Yeah, because I deal with the companies, the biggest misconception is that it's too expensive.
Okay.
Not today, because yes, you can build something like wow with the most amazing VR set, and it will cost a little bit, yeah, but you can do it like light versions of the things for the same price you make a campaign video, and nobody complains about spending like 5,000 or 6,000 pounds in a video.
On a video, yes.
They shouldn't complain about spending it on VR, AR, because you can make things with that budget, and very useful things. So I think people say, oh no, it's not for me, it's too expensive, my brand can't afford that, or the VR sets are too expensive for the company. Why? No, you have like the Oculus Quest, like very, very accessible to everyone. Like if you spend something on a PlayStation, you can spend it on a VR set too. So, or you're buying an iPhone that costs you 1.5, you can buy it like for $800 VR set. So it's not expensive. You can.
It's not as expensive as people think. Yeah,
it's not. It's not. And
so it's hardware as well as the software.
Yeah, and the development of the things are not expensive like people. Oh, but who will develop that? Or that should be very expensive. If you're doing something small for you, like, I don't know, if you're a small museum and you want to implement some digital information about the things you have on your museum, you can do it through AR. So it's not an expensive thing to do, but it's very useful for the people who visit the museum. So you are using this technology on a daily basis for a very small budget. So it's not, it's people need to understand that it's not expensive, and they have to lose fear of asking for a quote of something like this, because
and expect it to be like 100,000 or 200,000 or something. All right, fair enough. I know we were going to talk about use cases, but then João already touched upon, you shared some examples, but would you share some more examples on what industries can benefit from using extended reality, in what forms? Like, for instance, like I'll just give you an example. So when I was doing research, because I did quite a bit of presentations, actually, funny enough, and even though I'm not an expert, I know a little bit. I know enough to do a presentation. You know what I'm saying? So. So something that I did was, one of the universities back in the Middle East was we did like a bunch of case studies where we showed how different organizations all over the world were using virtual reality at the time to sort of increase engagement and get people to, for instance, the New York Times, I think in 2014, and this is 2014, yeah. So this is like the early stages of of what VR is today. Uh, I think what they did was they send out special invitations to their premium subscribers, and they said, "Oh, you're invited to this event. You just have to click on this link." And what happened was when you and oh, and they also sent people Google Card, but that was the only thing that was that they were able to send. So with instructions on how you cut it out and how you assemble it and set it up and everything. So what happened was, on the day they said, oh, on this particular day you have to click on this link and make sure you have your Google Cardboard. So what people found was, after they put on the thing and they clicked on the link, they went to a site that was focusing on bringing to the forefront the plight of children in Syria, because 2014, it was very fresh, the whole conflict was fresh. And people were actually looking at children, not well, suffering from hunger and starvation and living in squalor and really bad environments with no food, no electricity, no running water, just basically in poverty. And then there was bombs going on in the background, and people could actually imagine it and they could feel it. And apparently, after this campaign, donations went up 300%. Because they were sending emails to their subscribers all the time. Hey, donate to this cause, donate to this cause, and they're like getting, they were getting some money, but not a lot. But when they did this VR campaign, donations tripled, because my guess is people, when they felt that emotion of being actually there and seeing those kids, well, you could almost touch, they felt the need to donate. So that was one example I cited, and there was another one, I think, was Topshop. Funny enough, that was in the UK, where they invited their top clients to London Fashion Week, and everyone's like, "Whoa, I'm invited to London Fashion Week, and I'm not even like, I'm not a celebrity, I'm not a model, and I'm invited." So what happened? We invited them to their stores in some of the bigger locations, the flagship locations, and they gave them VR headsets, and they were actually watching London Fashion Week on in virtual reality on a headset. So I saw pictures of people were like wearing their headsets and going, it was cool. It was cool, but it was different. It was innovative, and it really got I think the brand got the buzz. So would you guys want to, maybe share some examples of how either you have helped your clients, or some other similar examples where people can like you can actually get a day-to-day use of extended reality?
Yeah, sure.
The-
You can start.
I'll start with it.
yeah. Okay.
So I'll start with VR. In terms of VR, yeah, those are two great examples, which basically go to two industries, which is one, let's stream events in VR, and the other one is let's make video content in VR that can touch people, and that's very, very true of VR. One of the most amazing things that VR has is that capability of making you feel like you're actually there. And with the progression of the hardware, that feeling is becoming even more and more preeminent. It's becoming stronger as time goes by. Each and every single iteration of VR hardware makes you feel like you're there even more. And that's very useful because, for example, in VR, if the VR is done correctly, you can actually sense the depth of a space. You can look into someone's eyes. You can actually feel if it's a short space, if it's a very big one. You can feel it. You can hear it if the sound is recorded also in ambisonic format, and all of that makes for a very personal experience. And translating that to streaming an event, for something that is visual as a fashion week, it's actually like being there because you're in the same place, you're seated in the front row, you're looking at the models in exactly the same position as you would be if you were actually there. So it's such a similar situation that you can actually be fooled into thinking that you're actually on London Week or on Paris Week. The same applies, for example, to a live concert. Live concerts in VR make a lot of sense. Live summits in VR make a lot of sense. So, but this is the events. All the events in this make sense in VR.
Yeah, and actually, it's giving people. I think event organizers, especially conferences, that's additional revenue for them. So now you can attend live, or then you can attend in VR and maybe pay half the price, but you're still kind of semi-experiencing it.
Yeah, and right now people are so used to doing this video call,
Yeah.
Zoomable conferences, and things like that. It makes even more sense to say, well, if you really like attending these kind of conferences, why not try the VR version? Because it makes you feel like you're there, even if you don't. And then this way, you don't need to travel to China to attend a very good conference there. You can still stay in London, for example, and just use your VR headset to make a teleport. But VR can be applied to a lot of things. And as I said, training is one of the big ones, definitely. But also because VR has shifted a little bit in recent years to include a very amazing thing called room scale experiences, which allow you to walk around. And this now gives you the possibility of doing amazing things, creating amazing experiences where you can walk around and explore stuff that is divided between the virtual and the physical world. As a very, very small example of that, this Christmas we did a game for kids that they could play in the shopping mall, and they had to protect the Santa bag of gifts. Okay, and the bag was in the middle of a square. And they were being attacked by the bad guys from all the sides that wanted to steal the gifts. So they had to shoot snowballs onto the bad guys, so to send them away. But they were coming from all the sides, and they had the big bag in the middle of the space. So they had to actually go around the bag to get to the baddie that was coming there, and then they had to go to the other side, and the video of that is amazing because the kids are having a blast running around, jumping and trying to get as much points as they can while experiencing something in VR in a completely different world, and it's like being teleported there. So this room scale stuff is definitely the future, because suddenly you're not stuck to a chair, you're not stuck to a position. You move and the world moves around you. So you can be inside the virtual room and actually explore it using your hands, using your feet, the same way as you would in actual reality. And
Cool.
And I think that is amazing. It's an amazing experience, for example, for museums too, or even for real estate.
I was going to say, yeah, you could actually sell this. You could actually, I think developers and builders could, or even travel. Like you could actually sell like a premium resort. You could actually put this up and say, you know what, you can actually walk in your room before you book it. This is what you're going to experience, more or less.
That's one of the examples that we've built. We've actually built that, and it has two parts. One of it is you're inside your hotel and you get to experience what's around you through VR. So let's say, how does that amazing view look like 30 or 50 minutes away by car? Is it worth my time? Should I go there? I only have one day. What should I see? Well, let me try it in VR inside my hotel and decide what I want to explore. And it's called the Virtual Concierge, and it's one of our products, one of our VR products.
Can we see a demo of that? Maybe. I mean, not right now, but maybe we can send if the attendees are.
I have a YouTube. We have YouTube. Video. Yeah, we have a YouTube video, and I can put the link on so that you guys see it. But yeah, so and you can explore what's around you. You can also explore within the hotel. That's a very big one. And you want to see what the spa looks like before spending, I don't know, 1,500 whatever in the spa, or the casino, or the restaurants. Maybe there's multiple restaurants inside. You want to check every single one before you go. So this is one of the things where VR is very interesting. Trying something before you go there, or even trying something at the completely different time of the year. Let's say you want to know how Madeira looks like in New Year's Eve, for example, because we're very famous for our fireworks on New Year's Eve. So let's say you wanna know what that looks like. Well, you're inside the hotel. You put on the headset, and you see from the hotel's perspective how that amazing fireworks looks like. And maybe for next year, you're going to book to go on New Year's Eve to Madeira Island. And that's VR, so I'm going to leave AR to Candy.
No, I want to put another example in VR, but that I think many people don't think about it, but I'm a woman, so maybe it makes sense. The health industry, okay, hospitals. You're a woman, you're pregnant. You don't know what expects you, right? You don't know how the room will be like. You don't know what people will do around you during the birth time. So that anxious gives you anxiety, during the pregnancy. So if you have something with VR in your classes for preparation for the birth, where you can experience the delivery room, the people around you, what they would do, where the baby will be put, what we will do with you, where you're going to. So if you know what you are expecting on that day will be more easy. Especially if it's your first child. When it's the second, you know.
Yeah, you know, yes.
People can tell you, it's like this, it's like that, but everyone has a different experience.
Yeah, there's nothing like experiencing it firsthand.
And if you know things, you will be more, it will be an easy birth because you know what to expect, right? And through VR, I think that's one of the best applications of the technology for health. The other one is for mental health. So you have problems, if you have if you're scared of spiders like I am, you can try to see one in VR, try to be next to one in VR and try to come out of that fear. If you are a veteran from war, you can try to have therapy through VR.
Suffering from PTSD in this case.
Right, yeah.
So,
or if you have a fear of heights, you can play Richie's plank experience and get over it.
I think it's very useful because I want this technology to be useful. Use of VR. So it's another industry that João didn't talk about, but I remember because I had a child 1 year ago, and I think if people saw my birth, will be more okay. It's okay to do it. So I thought, maybe I should record the thing in 360 and put it in a VR glasses for other women to see it. And I think that's a very interesting product. If we could generate something in this way to help pregnant women.
This is like citing on to my early example of using emotion, because this is all about emotion, especially childbirth. It's a very emotional thing, right? So yes, there is a lot of physicality for it, and I can't say obviously, but
even the father, if he tried the VR experience before the birth of the actual child, maybe he would say, okay, I can be there, I will not pass away.
I can take it.
Yeah.
I won't pass out.
Yeah. So I think that's another aspect of VR, and I think it has very utility. AR, it's very useful to people. Maybe don't see it in the first place why it's useful. But I can give one or two examples of the use of the technology. I spoke about museums earlier, and I think one of the biggest uses for AR is to get more knowledge. Okay, so if you go to an art gallery, if you go to a museum, if you have an app that can help you through AR to know more about that piece of that painting, or show you pictures associated to that item, or where, imagine it's I don't know, something from the ancient times. If you
something
see
that gives you data about it.
if you see it, how that thing was used in that time,
or how it was created. Like for instance, you walk into just outside the Taj Mahal, you see all those people putting together the Taj Mahal or something similar.
If you get more knowledge through that app, it will be a more interesting experience inside the museum or inside the art gallery. It's not going there and see, oh, what a pretty vase, and bye bye.
Yeah.
So,
true. No. Yeah. That's a very practical practical experience, practical use of AR.
yes, and the people can use their own smartphones, so the museums don't have to buy extra gear to give their visitors, like the audio.
That was going to be my question eventually. So obviously B2B uses are multiple, and they're dependent on specific scenarios and stuff. But let's talk about B2B. I don't know what I said. Yeah, B2B. Yeah, but let's talk about B2C. B2C is like you said, in this case, maybe all the people have to do is download an app to be able to use it within, or not, or within the museum. But then see, again, I'm speaking from an outsider's perspective. Is there like a very strong requirement, or will there be a strong requirement for hardware and software, or will you be able to just randomly, eventually in future, just randomly just be able to pick up any phone or any decent smartphone and be able to use AR to sort of get information about a product, or do you see that happening very near into the future, or because right now I know it's available, but you need to download an app, or you need another platform to sort of interface.
Yeah, that's something we are trying to break. So every experience we develop here, you don't need to download an app. Everything is web-based. But João will talk about it better than me because he's the tech guy. But even now, you can take any phone, like any recent phone.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years from now.
Less.
Yeah. And go to a museum, scan a code, and have the experience totally on the web. So that's something that is happening now. In the future, will be better, of course, but you can do that even now with your smartphone. I don't know what smartphone do you have, Barry, but sure you can do it with yours.
Yeah, I think I got a rusty old OnePlus 6. I also have an iPhone which I don't use, but a OnePlus 6 is I mean, I think João shared something with me a couple of months ago, and I could use it fine. Something that I had to drop on the table and pick it up and stuff. So I don't remember what it was, a flower pot or a vase, or no, it was food. Yeah, how could I forget food? I don't forget food.
That's another application of AR. If you're in a restaurant, you can see the plate before you order.
Right, you can see the dish. Because that's actually brilliant, because it can actually lead to increase in sales. Because I noticed from personal experience a lot of times, because we experiment a lot. You go to a restaurant and you're looking at a new dish that you've never tried out before, and you're thinking, what does that look like? And then obviously the guy will come, and your maitre d' or whatever will come and tell you, oh, this is this is made up of mushrooms pureed, this and that, and béarnaise sauce and steak sauce or whatever. And yeah, if you're used to these ingredients, fine. But sometimes you find a lot of new ingredients that you don't know where they're from, what their use is. Especially if you're going to a specialty restaurant, and then eventually you don't even know what that dish is going to look like.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you hear a lot about a particular dish, but you've never seen it. I don't know what it is. So if there is, and then again, there's only so much that you can get out of a picture on a menu. So if you can actually just wave your phone and get an actual almost 3D image of what that looks like, that might actually whet my appetite, and I might say, you know what, I want to try that. And ordinarily I might not want to try it because I don't know what it feels like, or I don't know what it's going to look like. You know what they say, you eat with your eyes first, and then with your. So it's all about delivering that experience. So I totally get that food thing. There's immense scope in that.
Yeah.
So Mr. Tech Guy, you wanna add to that?
Now, in terms of tech, we're at the place today that the tech is really good, and as I said,
and getting better.
and getting better. Yeah, every year, and like really fast. Like for example, computers, mobile with mobile chips, like Apple is doing now. So the M1 chip is a smartphone / tablet chip that was put inside a computer, and it works better than most computer chips.
Computers, right?
And it's far less expensive than the
Yeah,
other one.
and yeah, it's driving all this innovation is also driving costs down.
Yeah,
Something that I wanted to add. Sorry, I'm getting all hyped up. The thing is, I think people are thinking about like Candy touched on the expense. And yes, if you look at it, your initial investment is always going to be a little higher. But if you look at what your long-term deliverables are, like this food example, like people think, why would I need to invest in this? And it's very simple. Like, why would I need to invest in an AR app that will show people what the food is like? But then that plays a big part in a lot of people's inner psychology. Like if I can visualize that's what it looks like, if I can tilt my phone around and look at what it looks like from the side and whatever, that can actually prompt me to order that dish. If it's an expensive dish, well, that's one extra sale. So imagine having to do that at scale. So you may spend, I don't know, whatever it is, a couple of $1,000, pounds, euros on developing that application, but in the long term, it's going to increase your revenue. So brands should also start thinking on that level.
yeah, and because it uses the smartphone people already have, and
it's not something new or nothing you have to buy.
And because it also doesn't require anyone to download anything, because that was one of the problems we had a lot of time ago, and that's why we shifted from downloading an app to be 100% web-based, because we had a big experience with a big museum, and the feedback was people don't want to download anything for something they will just take 2 hours to see and then go away.
Right.
So we thought, okay, how can we surpass that? And the only way to do it was through web AR. And so we worked a lot on it, and we jumped through a lot of different frameworks over the time to get to one place, which is the place we are right now, where we can say, well, it works on every single phone from 5 years to now. Of course, the more fresh, recent phone is, the better it will work.
Better it'll work, right?
And that's the greatest thing about AR right now, is that you as a business build something now, and in 2 years it will look even better without spending any kind of money in it, just because smartphones are better, they are faster, they now can use more lighting, they can do better shadows, they have more anti-aliasing on it, and so everything will suddenly look better just because the time went by. And that's something that I think that's why I think it's such a good investment for businesses right now, to do something like this, that uses a web interface, that uses AR as it is supposed to be.
Sorry, I'm sorry to cut you off there. I know there's some people that are in the fashion space. So how can fashion, in fashion, not fashion designing or whatever. I'm talking about retail fashion. Like you want to share an example of how somebody within the retail space can use AR or VR or both? Like if they want to, I saw this ages ago. I think 2011 or thereabouts. I saw the whole magic mirror concept where you could walk into a store and then, you could visualize what you would look like wearing a particular dress or a jacket or hat, whatever. Well, not hat. You could just put the hat on. But but has it become exponentially easier? Because back then I knew one of the people that represented the company that was doing this, and the costs were like astronomical. I'm talking about $30,000-$40,000 just one like 2x2 mirror, which most retail outlets cannot afford at the time. I mean, besides, they weren't even looking at any like what are benefits. I'm not going to get 10 extra sales in a month, and I'm going to spend $40,000. No, it's not. It doesn't make sense. But have those costs come down? And is the technology right now easier to implement on these levels? Like, you don't need a whole magic mirror, for instance. Maybe I can do it on my phone. I can take a picture of a particular jacket that's in a store, and then just, I don't know, overlay it on one of my pictures? And I mean, how does that work? Can you give us an example?
So I can talk about her too, and John
Sure.
will surely talk about the other ones. So for watches and bags and shoes, it's amazing.
Right.
Because you nowadays can try it with AR with your phone. So you point at your feet, and you can try, I don't know, every version of the Nike sneakers, okay, and see what is the one I like more and buy it online. So this for e-commerce, it's amazing because I'm in my house. I can't go to stores right now, but I want to buy things and
Retail therapy.
yeah, and the only thing available I have it's the apps from the stores, so I have to buy it online. But I can't try it with AR. I can't. So if I want to buy a sneakers, I can try it. If I want to buy a new watch, I can point to my wrist and say what is the watch I like more and buy it. If I want,
this is not good for me because I'm a big watch collector.
yeah. Or if you want to buy a bag, you can see the actual size of the bag. That for women again.
Okay.
But we have problems with that because we don't know if everything we have will fit the bag, if it's too small, if it's medium or large, or if it goes well with that outfit. So I can see the actual size of the bag, the actual texture, and how it is. Better photograph. So it helps me buy things without having to give it back if it doesn't fit.
How easy are these solutions to implement for the retailer? Like, if it's a small time dealer who's just like one shop,
it's very
how easy in terms of like tech? Like most people in those spaces are not very tech savvy. So
I can tackle that. It's tech. So our solution, which we call Visualizer, with AR in the end, of course, it's a one line of code thing. So you just import, you just add one script on your CMS on every page, and it takes care of everything. So
nice. So on any regular e-commerce website, irrespective of whether it is a Shopify site, a WooCommerce site, or whatever,
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whatever CMS you have, you just need one place where you can add one script, just like you do with I don't know, Google Analytics. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Just to copy paste the code.
Yeah. Copy paste one line of code, and it just works. So the implementation will be specific for your website in terms of design, because we want the see it in 3D button to merge within your website. But yeah, the implementation is one line of code, and then you have your own CMS for all the AR if you want to just connect like this product with this web page, or if you don't want to think about it, it will just work from the get-go after we get the list of products. So yeah, it's a one line of code solution in terms of implementation. The only part of the job that takes a little while, depending on the product, is the actual 3D creation of your product. Which
do you need those products physically?
Yes and no. So
okay.
we can do things in very different ways. So we can start with the most basic one of them, which is, for example, what we use with big kitchen appliances, say fridges and washing machines, because they are basically cubes. So we have our own framework that takes the photographs of the product that you already have on your website to sell, and uses that along with the information, with the size, the dimensions of the product, to create a simple 3D version of it. This is like the like step one. So
the most basic.
Yeah, you don't want to spend a lot of money. And also you don't want to spend time taking new photos of your products. So it's what I have. This is what the supplier or the factory sent to me. I don't have anything else. this is it. Okay, then we take that photograph and we approach it with our own framework, and it automatically creates that something that looks like your product. Okay, then there's step 2, and step 2 is, okay, you have the time to take a lot of photos of your product all around from all the angles, and you will send them to us. We'll process that into a 3D model using our own software. Step 2, and that gets you a very, very good 3D model of your actual product. But let's say that's not enough for you. You want something even better, even more professional. Then yeah, we need the product here.
Okay.
And we will do a mix of a 3D scan and then 3D modeling to get that product to be perfect. So, for example, a watch would, to be absolutely perfect, up to the most impressive
diamond
detail, and then the last diamond would have to be done like this, of course. But up until that point, you can still get good approximation of what it would look like, and maybe that's good enough.
Okay. So it all depends on the application, on the product, and also the amount of money a client willing to spend on.
Which is great because it allows the client to decide, okay, I'm gonna start it out. I want to spend this much. What can I do with this? Or I want to start with the 100 products I sell the most, or with the 10 products I sell the most. Let's see if this works. And if it does, incrementing it is really easy. It's just a matter of getting more and more products within it, and the framework is already ready for it.
I like that. That's a very good example. And yeah, fashion is actually one of the more easily applicable ones, because I think people want to experience that thing. Of course, there's a large number of people that would also want to experience it physically, like they want to hold. Like for me, because I love watches very much, and for me, it's much more than a sensorial thing, because I'm all about apart from the look, I'm all about the history. I collect vintage watches also, so I'm about the history and where it was from, and there's this story that I heard about the watch, which was like a World War II. Somebody actually gave it to his grandson, and then it got lost and it was found, and then it was lost again. It was lost a bunch of times or stolen or whatever, and then eventually it showed up on one of these on eBay or something. And the original owner's grandson found out about it, and he made an offer. He's like, listen, don't sell it for a couple of hundred, whatever. I'll pay you 2,000 or 3,000, whatever. I'll pay you 10 times the value. Because of it had an inscription in the back, and it was meant for that guy's son, whose name happens to also be this grandson. I mean, they share the same name, of course, it was also a message on the back, because of the war at the time and stuff. It was a lot of sentimental value. For that, I would appreciate, I would want to have seen that, but then there's a lot of people who don't really care. They want to just see what it looks like on them, which is why I touched on fashion. Like, I want to see what this T-shirt or what this jacket looks like on me, right? Or even a hat. If I'm not in a store, if I'm outside or whatever, I mean, I actually see what it looks like, because I got a big head. Not everything looks good on me. Or sunglasses. Sunglasses, I think, is a cool option, and it's tried a lot. I've seen Ray-Ban. I've seen another site that actually you can.
It's really easy to do.
Internet problems.
Hello? What happened to Barry?
I don't know.
Hey, Barry.
I don't know. It kind of just switched you guys, so you're back now.
Yeah, we lost you too.
Yeah, I know we lost, and now it's switched. So now you guys are closer to each other. So. All right. So I think we're nearing the end. So I'm gonna open the floor. I don't know how many people we had. We lost a couple of people 15 minutes ago. I'm assuming because we went a little bit over time, which is understandable. Apologies for that. Hang on a second. I'm just gonna block my camera because I'm getting really close. So if there's any questions in the chat, where we could take a couple, maybe 1 or 2 questions in the chat. Anyone? Please feel free. There's Andre, Thierry, Joanna.
Barry, can I just add one thing?
Sure. Yeah.
In the meantime.
Yeah, while we're waiting for questions.
you were talking about the watches part and all of that, and I was also getting reminded of thing. It's not only I want to try one T-shirt that I don't have, and I want to see how it looks like. Sometimes AR can be even more useful when you're going like, I already have one T-shirt of that model, but I want to see what the other models look like. Like, how does this look in blue? How does this look with that different logo? Okay,
Right.
and that's something that can be done right now. The same thing with watches. So how does my watch look like in that blue and gray version, or in that gold version, or with the different bracelets? And that is something that we can do already, because we can detect where the watch that you already have is, and then replace it with things, and replace colors, and replace parts of it. The same thing with a car. How does my car look like with a spoiler? How does my car look like with black rims instead of just one? All of that is extremely useful, and it's a great way to use AI.
And these are all examples where you wouldn't necessarily, like, a person, the end user wouldn't necessarily need to have an additional interface, right? He could just take a smartphone, scan a. So what is the entry point? Do you need, like, to scan a code or something, or how do I get on to this?
Maybe let's take the T-shirt example. Maybe you're on the website of the T-shirt maker.
Okay.
As a thing, they're like, try our new models with your own T-shirt. And when you click OK, then now you're using your selfie camera, for example, to point at that, and then you're swiping to change the color of your T-shirt. Or maybe you're pointing at the mirror to see it better. You're pointing at the mirror and you're seeing yourself in the mirror, and you're swiping to change color, you're swiping to change the model, and it uses your own T-shirt as a marker, basically.
Okay, and then it just overlays the T-shirt on top of it, or the design.
Exactly.
Interesting. Okay.
It will replace the design.
Okay. That's really cool, and we got to talk about this after this session, because I think we can work on something together. Yeah, see, the ideas just keep flowing, man. Let me see. So there's no questions. I'm thinking there are no questions because no one's asking any questions. Or do we need to do what we did earlier? Hey guys, come on, give us some questions. You got exactly a minute, because we're gonna close this in a couple of minutes. I'm assuming there are no questions. Actually, I have a question. So, and this is kind of a weird kind of question, but you know, you've seen, obviously you've seen Minority Report and all those films. Does any of that, like, I mean, should we be afraid of anything that, like, that coming to reality, real reality, our reality?
I think so.
As in what? So Minority Report has a lot of bad things and a lot of good things in it. So what are you specifically talking about?
Well, I don't know. You know, like we see a little bit of it in terms of AR. We see sort of the, you know, the fact that you can get data. You know, like Andy was saying, the ability to go to the museum, whatever. You could apply that to multiple scenarios. But I don't know. Maybe Minority Report is not the best example. I mean, and it's like Real Player One. We've I don't know if you watched that Real Player One, Steven Spielberg. Do you think anything like that? You know, there's a real possibility. Like you remember back in the day, there was Second Life, and then there was Sim City and stuff, and all those were still virtual. Like there was still a distance. But the beauty of, like, mixed reality is the line's very fine. That's why I put the title. You know, the very fine line between virtual and real. Do you think there will be a time where people are actually let me give you a very quick example. I don't know, because people are not asking questions. I might as well just ask them myself. So I went to one of these expos ages, like 2 or 3 years ago, and this was in Dubai, in the UAE, and there was this company from the Far East. I think it was Taiwan, China, somewhere, and I think it was Hong Kong. And they were giving people a virtual reality experience where they had ready-made celebrities. Okay, and this was it wasn't a porn site or anything. It was just basically you could go out on a date with your crush, your celebrity crush. Like if you had a crush on Angelina Jolie or Ben Affleck or whoever, you could actually go out on a date with them in VR, right? And again, I think you're not really going out on a date with them, but then again, there's revenue to be made because these companies are charging you to go out on a date with Ben Affleck or whoever it is, which is not real, but it's a simulated version of Ben Affleck. And again, it's a very fine line because you're actually sitting at home, you're thinking, my God, I'm actually going out on a date with whoever it is. So do you think this can get more refined? I have absolutely no idea what happened with that company, by the way. But now that I remember, I will try and look them up and see what they're doing with that.
You have a very recent example of something like that too, which is Captain Kirk from Star Trek, the actor.
Right.
Okay, I don't remember his name right now.
William Shatner.
But
yeah,
William Shatner. That's it. So he recently was scanned fully, and he was asked like 600 questions, I think.
Okay.
And he replied to them while being recorded and scanned. And it was then they used it to, I think, decompose all these replies into an AI, so that in the next, I don't know if it's still available right now. I don't think so, but it will be soon available. The ability for you to ask questions to William Shatner, and that is something that will be alive forever.
Right.
So basically, you're keeping William Shatner alive forever to reply to whatever questions you have on him. And it's something that, for me personally, I love. I love the idea of having someone live forever, not as only a memory, but as something you can interact with.
Right. So as long as you're in this case, as long as you're asking one of those 600 questions, you'll get a reply more.
No, I think they do some interesting and intelligent AI where they take your question and they see, okay, what's the best answer or what's the best reply. I don't know. They can do a lot of stuff behind it to narrow down your question to the best reply that he did to those 650 different questions. So you will be able to ask him anything. The reply may not be what you're expecting, but there will be a reply. It's like a chatbot, basically.
Right. Yeah.
But
in
one
in 3D.
Really,
I think the future photo album of the family will not be pictures on a book. Will be something like this with AR or VR, where you put and you show your kids your grandpa and he's interacting with you.
Yeah, kind of like Harry Potter.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that was really cool. I actually remember watching a film in 3D. I know it's not related in 3D. The first film that I ever watched in 3D was the latest King Kong, the one that was released 4 or 5 years ago. That was in 3D. And I think that was because at the height of this whole VR thing, I was expecting something totally cool, and it was okay. It wasn't that bad, But somehow I thought it was a bit overdone because so we watched it and we were like, okay, this is really cool. What was it? Yeah, so there's a lot of firing scenes where there's gunfire and stuff where you could actually feel the whizzing of the bullets, which is kind of cool. But then sometimes, when there was a running scene or a chase scene, they incorporated that. And there was a VR headset, obviously, but they incorporated that in the swaying of the seat. It was really annoying because at first you're like, the first 1 or 2 times it happens, it was really cool. And then during the course of the 2-hour film, your seats were constantly doing that. And it got more and more annoying because you're like, okay, what's the significance of this? He's running, he's being chased or whatever. So sometimes people do tend to get, and it was just not me, by the way. It was a lot of people when we left the cinema. They're like, okay, it was good. The first 15 minutes was really cool, but then it got really annoying because they kept doing the shaky thing for everything. Or I think there's always a chance of people, these production companies, where they tend to overdo stuff. Okay, so right. So Andre says it's basically the 4x reality in cinema. It gets annoying. Yeah, exactly, Andre. I totally get it. It does get annoying. I think anything that you do with a little bit of restraint is good because then you're trying to give people the actual, how should I say, the actual level of experience that you want to deliver. Another thing I wanted to just share with you is like when I was doing research for this older project, there was this footwear company. They're doing I forgot the name of it, but they were doing specifically trail hiking boots. They were selling hiking boots. So what they did was they created within a mall in the US, they created like a virtual reality dome, which is like a 12 meter by 12 meter dome. and inside it you could actually climb certain, like I think you could, they picked certain spots in Italy and the Andes, the mountains, the Ural mountains, whatever you could pick. And what they did was they actually created a set where you could walk in virtual reality. You could walk, and they had these what do you call these seismographic sort of floors, like a stairs, like you know, things that move. So I think they called it rumble flat floors or whatever. I don't know what it's called. And so you could walk around, and you could walk around in a volcanic area where there was like volcanic ash and stuff like that, and you could walk, and then you could actually, when the volcano was erupting, you could feel the ground you kind of shake almost. It was like reality, you know. And then you could climb against a rope bridge like they have in South American mountains, and you're climbing from mountain to mountain. There's a river underneath. So this is like the jungle version of Richie's experience, where you're actually looking down and you see. And the thing was, they created an actual rope bridge. So what you were what you were experiencing was reality. You were actually experiencing a rope bridge. But the only thing is, in VR you could see the rapids with water and stuff. In reality, it was nothing. It was just like a maybe 2 feet drop down into the sand. But in reality, it was. But in virtual reality, it was scary. And they had a lot of celebrities go through this. And the idea was, oh sorry, the brand was called Trailscape. And the idea was, come experience. I think this was in the winter time, or they were trying to get more people to do two things: one, to buy their shoes, obviously, and also to go outside and spend time with nature and stuff like that. So they're like, you don't want to drive all in the mountains, or you don't want to. So now you come here and experience what it feels like to go in the mountains without getting dirty, without driving, without getting wet, whatever, in virtual reality. And then at the end, when you got out, they were actually selling tickets to go to one of those 2 or 3 places. So a lot of people were like, man, that was good. I really want to go. And they were signing up. So this is like a great sales tool, for like a precursor to, oh, you need exercise, you need fresh air, you need to go on hikes. Oh, and by the way, you also need our shoes because they're meant for hiking. So there's a lot of plugins there. There's sales plugin for the shoes. They partnered with a travel company that would set you up with, oh, you want to go to the Andes? Where did you go virtually? Did you go to the Andes virtually? You want to go in real life? We can sign you up right now. We'll give you a 20% discount. So there are multiple sort of ways you can do things. And I think that's like a really cool real life, like we were talking about this earlier, right? Real life experience, real life use of VR or AR, whatever, to get people to experience something and then actually buy. And because I know brands, forget about museums and stuff. Museums and all will love it, but brands, again, at the end of the day, they want sales, right? It's all about bottom line, money, cha-ching, dollar, money, pounds, whatever, euros. So this is a great way of like, because we were doing this, we were experimenting back in the day, trying to sell this to a potential client. They were like, so I'm going to invest. Let's assume I'm going to invest $10,000 in this. What is my return? Is it just like something fancy I can put on my website? And I was like, no, it's not. Well, it is. But in addition to that, you can prompt this. You can use this as a prompt to get sales, irrespective of what, like, because we had somebody that was selling 350 condominiums in Turkey, and they were selling it to an affluent market in the Middle East. So we said, here's an idea. You can actually help people visualize this. So people, before they even think of, like, I have to travel all the way to Turkey to buy those to even see those apartments, forget about buying them. Well, you can actually experience them in VR and then decide whether you want to buy them or not. And the fact that you can experience that same apartment in the morning time, see what it looks like in the morning and when there's natural light coming into it. And then you can also experience it at night when it's dark, and you can turn your own lights and see what it feels like. That's really cool. And that is like the buying stage. And then once you've bought that apartment, then you can actually do a bit of custom fitting. I don't want a marble sink, I want a granite sink or whatever. I want a countertop here. There's so many things that you could do with it. So I think the application, it's really important for people to sort of translate that application more than the wow factor. Initially, you use the wow factor to get people's attention, and then you sell them on the actual application.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, because we had an experience, a very interesting one, when we were in London last time. Actually, when we met you for the first time, which was we had an experience of regarding traveling.
Yes.
And so people would use VR and they would walk and they would jump from place to place. And at the time, last place they would go to were the Maldives. And one girl loved that so much that she took it off. She went to like EasyJet or
She booked the
something,
flight.
and she said, I need to go. I'm gonna book a flight right now, and that was really a wow situation for us, because it proved at that time, it proved our point, that VR can generate sales, and this was a really small example for us at the time, and eventually we ended up doing it with travel agency,
Right.
and they had very good results with it. But the thing is, it can do exactly what you're saying. So if people see how good or how amazing a place is, they may be inclined, and more inclined in this case, to buy a ticket to go there. And that's it.
So,
and that's generating sales.
all right. So we have the one question, and this is hopefully going to be the last one. So Thierry is asking. Sorry, I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it, Thierry, but I'm just going to say Thierry. How long would it take for AR VR to be a part of our lives on a daily basis?
Candy, go first.
I think tomorrow. No, I'm kidding. But I think very soon, because things are getting traction right now in multiple places and in multiple industries. So you are getting used to use it on e-commerce, or in the museums, or in a football stadium, or I don't know. You go certain places right now and you find yourself using AR or VR. So to be on our daily basis, maybe a couple years from now, but surely it will happen. Yeah.
Well, it also depends, in my opinion, and I will add to you. The biggest thing here is the smartphones as a whole need to get to a good place, so that even when people buy very cheap smartphones, say those weirder models from Huawei, for example, the ones that no one understands why the specs are really good, but then they don't work.
Right. Yeah. They say it's a 40 megapixel camera, but it's like a web.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it. So until we can get all those smartphones, the lower end ones, to be somehow good enough, and I think that will take like maybe 2 years. If until we go there, when we get there, then we'll be on AR being part of our daily basis.
I think even chipsets are getting cheaper now. They're getting better and they're getting cheaper. So
Also, it also depends on the content. So and it's on the developers' hands to build stuff that people want to use every day. So if it's a game or an experience like Cheetos did one recently, I think, in the UK, where you went around and you found Cheetos in the street, and if you found enough, you could go for a PlayStation 5.
Right. Yeah, that was.
So that's cool. That's really cool, really fun. But that's not what will get you to use it on a daily basis.
Yeah, that's one of those gimmicky things.
Yeah, it needs to be something really useful, really interesting, that gets into your workflow or into your life, and it's something that you want to appreciate and use every day. When we get to that, and that there are a lot of ways to do it, but when we get to that, then it will be completely perfect.
All right, so we have one more question, and this is something that this is so Andre. Actually, it's a good question. So also, João mentioned concert VR. My question is regarding sound quality. How good is it? Because we always think about this type of technology more on the visual side of things. That's true, actually. But we were talking visually and sensorially. What about sound?
And that's a great question for me, because I look at the sound thing as much as the video. So the sound quality for VR and 360 experiences right now is really good. It only depends on what headphones you're using, what speakers you're using. Why? Because right now we have a lot of formats, even at the movies, that use spatial sound. And at the movies, we're now being bombarded with Dolby Atmos, Dolby Atmos, and Dolby Atmos is nothing but a format of spatial sound where you can position sounds wherever you want.
Okay.
And that's the way it works. And that's the same way we already do it on the VR side. So the quality will only depend really on the headphones you're using, or on the speakers on the headset, because some headsets have their own speakers.
Right.
But it can be really, really good and completely immersive, as in you're actually feeling the same thing as if you were at the concert right now. The only thing that we still lack is enough bass to make you feel like you're there.
Yeah, of course.
Okay?
A concert would, depending on if it's like a rock concert, you
You feel the sound more than you hear it. You feel it. That could be that can be fixed if you also use a speaker along with the headset. But that's a very special, very specific situation. A very unique installation where you put a big speaker in front of someone using VR, and then you get that tactical, that feel experience.
Yeah, I get that, and especially, I mean, I'm a big sound guy, so I love my bass depending on the kind of music that I'm listening to. So
yeah,
cool. All right, great. I think that was we've gone like way ahead of our schedule, but then a really cool discussion. I really loved it. I think there's a lot of insights that people get in terms of not just what's available out there, but in terms of like how businesses can start using different aspects of AR and VR. By the way, most of what we touched on was mainly B2C. We haven't even got to B2B. Maybe we should have series. Maybe we should have session 3A and session 3B. Who knows? Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, thanks very much for making it to session 3. Was really insightful. I learned a lot actually, because a lot of things, and I thought I knew a bit, and I do know a bit, but then I learned a lot in terms of the actual applications and how far it can go. So thanks very much for sharing your insights, your perspectives. And we're gonna, to those of you who stayed, we're gonna send you the recording, and we're also gonna send you any links from whatever we discussed. So if you want to get more information, I'll send you email addresses as well, so in case you want to get if you have specific questions with regards to a specific piece of content that we talked about today, you can ask them. So thanks very much once again, and we will see you at session 4. We don't know where that is. But when we do know, we will let you know. So thanks very much. Take care. And thanks, João. Thanks, Candy. It was great. And we should do this again sometimes. Thanks, everyone.
Sure.
Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.